Heya, cryptozens. To quote Vitalik Buterin, Ethereum is neutral, but I am not. And neither am I, Vitalik. Tonight's stories are: Bitcoin goes to war. Ukraine limits cash withdrawals. Can Russia beat sanctions with crypto? The date is February 24th, 2022, and welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. I'm your host, Nick. The cover model for the podcast is Tex, and together we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space in the industry that surrounds it. We bring you news stories on familiar topics. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. If you're new here and you find that you like this show, subscribe and rate us. If you're on Spotify, you can rate us right from the app. Give Tex and I 5 stars. It will help other people find their way to this podcast. Now, there's a lot to talk about, so let's go. Pretty horrific day, huh? I need something to be clear before we go any further. I am mad. I am beyond mad. I'm outraged. I'm ticked off. I am not mad at the Russian people. I'm mad at the Russian government. So when I talk about Russians tonight, I am talking about their government, not their people. So my Russian listeners and my Ukrainian listeners, as I'm writing my show tonight, like a lot of people, I have my TV on. And I'm hearing that the Russian army is surrounding Kiev right now. So my Russian listeners and my Ukrainian listeners, I hope for nothing but peace for all of you. In my last segment, I'll be talking about how crypto and autocratic governments are not really compatible. But before we get into these stories, let's take a quick look at the markets. At the time of writing, the global crypto market is up. It's up 2.42% in the last 24 hours to reach $1.72 trillion. Top 5 cryptos by market cap are Bitcoin, which is up 4.38%, Ethereum, which was up 2.37%, Tether, Binance Coin, which is down 0.44%, and USDC. The global NFT market cap is $9.7 billion. The top 5 NFT collections by 24-hour volume on OpenSea are Bored Apes, up 186%, and then right behind them, Mutant Apes, up 224%. Azuki is up 129%, and the doggies are down 7%. CloneX, up 121%. Now keep in mind, some of these collections have very volatile prices, so please do your own research. Bitcoin goes to war. Even now, donations are pouring in. One wallet, believed to belong to a charity supporting the Ukrainian military, has over $700,000 in Bitcoin. One wallet. And I need you to understand something. This goes to a charity. You cannot directly donate cryptocurrency to the Ukrainian military. Not only are they not set up for that kind of thing, it's illegal, or at least they're not legally set up to accept it. Donating crypto is very legal, as we will see. Now, this particular wallet, which has been around since August of 2021, has over 600 recorded transactions, most of them in February. Most of them, or at least a lot of them, in the last 48 hours. Elliptic, and I've talked about them before. They do blockchain analysis for compliance. They seem to do a lot of analysis around crypto forensics and crypto investigations. Looks like this wallet address, belongs to Come Back Alive. That's a Ukrainian non-governmental organization, an NGO, and that NGO is going to come up a lot here tonight. So Come Back Alive supports Ukrainian armed forces. Now, apparently, in just the last 12 hours, Come Back Alive's address received almost 400,000. This rush of donations rides the wave of a trend in the last few weeks. Hundreds and thousands of dollars have flooded into volunteer groups and Ukrainian NGOs. Purpose, of course, is basically to hold off Putin's illegal assault. That means things like buying medical equipment, drones, military equipment. I even read that there's some facial recognition app that's supposed to help you detect a Russian spy or mercenary. I don't know about the validity of that. I'm not saying either way. But according to Elliptic, volunteer groups and NGOs have collectively raised over $1 million in crypto, and that number is climbing. This is an interesting development. Tom Robinson is the chief scientist of Elliptic. Now, he said, quote, "Cryptocurrency is increasingly being used to crowdfund war with the tacit approval of governments. And there's a history of Ukrainian citizens stepping up. Volunteer groups have supported the work of the Ukrainian military. They offer additional resources and manpower. This program I was watching this morning showed Ukrainians lining up down the block to donate blood. In 2014, when they kicked out Viktor Yanukovych, he was the pro-Russian Ukrainian president, until protesters threw him out anyway. While that was going on, volunteers stepped up to help the protesters. In the past, a lot of finances would have come from private donors. That would be through bank wires or payment apps or something of the sort. The part of why crypto is so important is, that's part of it. Just days ago, Ukraine made crypto legal, all crypto. And, well, there's some reasons an individual might want to have unfettered access to their own funds. At present, Ukrainian banks are limiting access. I'll talk about that in a bit. So we talked about the Come Back Alive group. Now, they're accepting crypto. They've been doing that since 2018. And that money goes to equipment, training services, medical supplies for Ukrainian military. Now, there's a different group, Ukrainian Cyber Alliance, and they've been around for a while, since 2016. They've been involved in cyber attacks against Russian targets. They've also raised almost $100,000 in Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and some stablecoins. And as I said, they just made crypto legal at the national level. President Zelensky and the Ukrainian parliament recently passed a law that legalizes and regulates crypto. And like I said at the time, this could go a long way in leveling the playing ground a little bit, at least in terms of finance. And while it's not making crypto legal tender, not like El Salvador, this goes a long way to push crypto out of the gray area it had been in and into the light. Last August, Zelensky was pushing Ukraine's budding, quote, legal innovative market for virtual assets. And he was using this as a bait, basically, to draw investors' interest. Minister of Digital Transformation Mikhail Fedorov said the country was modernizing its payment market so that its national bank would be able to issue digital currency. But as we know, that has all changed. Ukraine invasion's economic toll, $3,339.13. If you are Ukrainian, that's how much you can withdraw from the National Bank of Ukraine. As Russian troops were marching on Kiev, the central bank suspended the country's currency markets. They stopped the circulation of all securities. As mentioned, they limited cash withdrawals, and they've halted the use of electronic currency and digital wallets. Now, we were just talking about how Ukrainian volunteers and NGOs are collecting cryptocurrency, so they're not affected. Wording here is that they're calling on the, quote, issuers of electronic money to suspend the issuance of electronic money, replenishment of electronic wallets with electronic money, and distribution of electronic money. Cryptocurrency, you notice, is not specifically mentioned. Now, we'll talk about some of the effects on the Ukrainian economy, the Russian economy, and beyond. Their stock exchange, the Ukrainian stock exchange, is down. The PFTS stock exchange stopped all activity on the 24th of February, Thursday. Oil went to $100 a barrel. That's the first time since 2014. What else happened in 2014? Putin invaded Crimea. European stocks dropped 2.75%. The ruble dropped 7%. The Central Bank of Russia, they banned short selling and over-the-counter markets. The Moscow Stock Exchange plummeted like 45%. Then they halted trade. They restarted. They ended up closing down 10%. And we're crypto people. 10% is nothing to us. 10% is like a good time. But they're not quite so philosophical about a 10% drop in the Moscow Stock Exchange. So anyway. Can Russia beat sanctions with crypto? So sanctions are happening. The U.S. and their allies are moving to cut Russian banks and oligarchs and officials off from their funds. They're cutting them off from their offshore funds and their ability to transact in the global financial system. At present, Russia is not cut off from the SWIFT system. Now, SWIFT stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. I think I'll do an episode in Crypto 5 Minutes on that one. It's crypto adjacent. So right now, there's no need for Moscow to start denominating things in Satoshis. Not just yet. Although if we cut Russia off from SWIFT, crypto might be a thing. Now, obviously, the U.S. is hoping that their economic sanctions will be sufficient to force Putin to give up his recently illegally stolen ground, force him into a retreat and a ceasefire. That's the hope. So that's why NATO allies are trying to financially isolate those oligarchs, banks, and officials. They started this action not long after Russia started its march on Kiev. Sanctions started happening after Russia said they were recognizing Donetsk and Luhansk as independent states. Sounds nice at first. That is until Putin claimed the leaders of those two regions were asking Russia for assistance and then used that as a pretext and an excuse for invading. They sent peacekeepers in. That's what they called them. Once that happened, a group of nations, including US, Canada, Japan, and the European Union, enacted their first round of sanctions. They went after specific people and entities. On Wednesday's attack, however, that accelerated things greatly. While Putin marched, Biden announced another round of sanctions would be coming. Dalip Singh is the Deputy National Security Advisor for International Economics in the United States. Speaking about the first round of sanctions, Singh said they were, quote, designed to impose overwhelming and immediate costs to the largest financial institutions and state-owned enterprises in Russia. This was designed to be flexible. Speaking at a White House briefing, Singh said, quote, we're also prepared to impose powerful export controls as part of our response package. Both financial sanctions and export controls deny something to Russia that it needs and can't get from anywhere other than the United States or our allies and partners. Financial sanctions deny foreign capital to Russia, and export controls deny critical technological inputs that Russia needs to diversify its economy and to deliver on Putin's strategic ambitions in aerospace, defense, and high tech. So, that's sanctions. Now, if we cut Russia off of SWIFT, that's very painful. There's only 2 or 3 other ways for Russia to transact internationally, and neither of them are anything resembling extensive. One of them is just for charities. That won't help Putin much. And the others, they're really small in terms of participating banks, which, if the Russians aren't already storing their money on that bank, it doesn't do them much good anyway. So what does this mean for crypto? Some people don't think there's a big likelihood that Russia is going to start using crypto. For one thing, autocrats don't trust or like decentralized power that's out of their control. They don't like it, they don't get it, they don't trust it. The Russian bank hates crypto. They were still trying to get it banned in favor of a digital ruble. So maybe Russia is thinking about using crypto. But do they really want the idea of how easy it is to sidestep restrictions really getting into their citizens' heads? I mean, they rely a great deal on physical and, yes, economic control of their citizens. Do they really want them to start thinking about how they can hide their activities from the government? Probably not. And when nobody wants to work with Russia, what are they going to do with their crypto anyway? Here's what I mean. Caroline Malcolm is Chainalysis head of international policy. Now, according to her, they haven't seen any unusual activities from Russian crypto exchanges lately. She said, quote, "We've seen that in the past with sanctions. You've got examples where wallet addresses have been named as sanctioned entities, and that allows Chainalysis to put in place alerts for our customers, whether they be government or industry. So that if they have transactions which, intersecting with sanctioned entities, they'll be able to see those and get an alert on those immediately." And maybe that's what will happen. I hope it is. At least while this crisis is happening, I hope exchanges are going to voluntarily cut Russia off from transacting. It's kind of the opposite of what happened with Canada and the Emergencies Act, but more human. Trudeau tried to bend exchanges to his will. In this case, exchanges may voluntarily become an ally of the government instead of its victim. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Do you have questions or comments about the show? Reach out and let us know. Send us an email at crypto.overnighter@gmail.com. That's crypto.overnighter@gmail.com. You can also find us on Torum and Twitter. Links to those platforms will be in the show notes. And please, if you could, like, subscribe, share, comment, and review the podcast. It would really help Tex and I out and would also help others find their way to this content. Getting the word out there really helps both them and us. Oh, and hey, give crypto in 5 minutes a lesson. We're up to 26, 27 educational videos and counting. 5 minutes to explain one concept in crypto. And for tonight, may peace